I've stopped talking with the doggo. I've got my recording going for my dailies. So keep in mind what you say, you goober.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I just, like, I mean, it's fine, because I'm trying to find my words again. Hold on.
Take your time. Da-ba-da-da-dum.
As much as I do enjoy sometimes on
You're
the rare
welcome, doggo.
occasion,
Blah, blah, blah.
engineering and designing things, it's more so things in my free time. I don't
Alright,
know if
see you
it's,
later. Blah, blah. Keep going, Lua.
I don't know if it's something I want to do as a career anymore. As a career, I mean, I'm currently working in the bicycle shop,
Night night.
and I enjoy fixing bikes that come in. Each one is kind of like a puzzle, a mechanical puzzle that I can approach and solve and get a rusted, hard to use bicycle by the end of the week functioning like it's brand new.
Nice.
And it's satisfying. And thankfully that line of work doesn't exactly require a degree.
Nice. Does it make a decent amount?
I mean, as for specifically bicycle shops, from what I could understand, an entry level position is like $20 an hour.
Not bad. Not the
And you
greatest
can,
in this economy, but hey, we'd take anything.
yeah. But of course, and that's of course entry. Depending on skill level, you could get up to upwards of like $30 an hour.
Ooh, tasty, tasty.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, if I'm working there a while, I don't see any reason I shouldn't get $30 an hour. And also, thankfully, the people who bike aren't gonna be the type of people I imagine who are against a trans girl.
Yeah, people will surprise you in so many ways, but hey, here's hoping for the long term that stays true.
Yeah. But of course, I mean, doesn't mean I'm forever gonna be working on bicycles. I mean, my
Yeah.
cars. I enjoy working on my car a ton. And that's a little bit more particular in how to get into that line of work. I'd have to like start at a small shop, I think, and like I don't
Build
know.
up work experience, get recommendations to move on to different things.
I actually might be able to start work as like an assistant underneath a mobile mechanic, possibly. I do have a friend who is a mobile mechanic. I could probably ask to help work with him. I kind of like work as an assistant, meet him places, help him as he needs to, make a little bit of money, just a little bit of like the labor fee going to me, and then use that as experience to get into an actual mechanic job, and then work up through that. Possibly. I'd have to do more research, but of course, I can work on bicycles in the meantime because I have the work experience working with. I have at least 1 year's experience working at a bike shop with proper bicycle mechanic trainings. And there's a few around here.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, there's routes I can go. I can also probably go to a trade school and learn how to work on like heavy duty equipment.
Yeah, you've only got so
Like,
much time and effort you can put in places, though, so make sure you're not trying to go branch out too far.
it's a case of worst case scenario, I am dropping out of college because colleges don't really foster technicians per se.
Yeah.
They more so are designing. They're more so designer philosopher and scientist. Technicians, you need a trade school for.
Fair.
From where or like a technical institute. Which we have some of those out here, I believe. Mostly because those types of jobs don't really have an emphasis on needing to know calculus like you do if you're a designer. At least my logic brain is telling me that. I'd have to do research, of course, but...
Fair. What is this? Certain die. That is interesting, but no. Alright, so...
But... what my plan right now is... I finally defeat the monster that is Calculus 2 and continue down my path of being an engineer. B,
nice.
I lose to the beast, continue at school maybe for like another year, but like do a basic major, whilst I, on the side, search for other routes for my actual career.
That's
that
fair.
Way, maybe I can still graduate, but just not with the degree I want. Maybe just like a basic, whatever degree. Maybe like history or something.
Fair.
Mostly because I enjoy history.
Yeah, that's fair. An understanding of history can make things very interesting. Unfortunately, it seems like a lot of people are ignoring history because they don't want to face the reality of things. They just want to be overgrown children.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very true.
And that's not just in, like, one political direction. That's in both political directions.
The downside, though, of it will be I definitely need to try to crank out my other classes so that my GPA doesn't plummet too hard to the point where the other routes won't take me. Because if you're on too low of a GPA, because the thing about ASU, and I don't know, I think it might also be the case of other schools, is technically it's multiple schools under the university that all work underneath the university.
Fair.
So like you have, I'm in the engineering. I'm going to ASU, but
Take your time to find your words.
I'm just trying to make my way to it. I'm technically underneath the IRA engineering school, which is working with ASU.
Okay.
But if you want to switch to a different major, if it's part of a different school, you technically have to apply to that school.
Yeah, and that's confusing on all things considered.
Oh yeah,
I want to know what kind of bureaucracy got in the way to cause that to happen.
I don't know. I mean, it's a case of, I feel like they wanted to split up the different types of classes underneath. I feel like, because it's like you have the university's head board or whatever, who then refer to their individual schools, who then refer to the majors and classes within their schools. So it's like a tiered system, which kind of makes sense bureaucratically. You're segmenting the work amongst different people so that you don't have a small group trying to take on a big task.
Yeah. But at the same time, it also creates a superiority hierarchy that ultimately undermines the foundation of such research and efforts.
Yeah.
Because people will take pride in being specialists or making more money, and that can ultimately dampen any results or accuracies. After all, it has been a recent scandal that in some universities and colleges that, hey, people have faked their results just so that way they could be proud of them.
Yeah.
I just don't understand that. It's like, are you Are you seriously trying to use what is going to be information that either drives us forward or helps us avoid pitfalls to try and... That's a betrayal to the sciences. That's a betrayal to the heart of actually getting stuff done.
Yeah. I will say, speaking of getting stuff done, ADHD brain moment, but this does remind me. See another ADHD brain moment. There was a video I saw which I love to send to people when I do find it, which is basically explaining ADHD brain. It's this guy who is listening to someone, but then one word pops up, so it splits to like what his brain is doing.
And it shows the chain of thoughts that he goes on.
Yep, it's just a note card with a string attached to another note card with a string attached to another note card.
That's the reason why I've gotten good at just like retracing things, just so that way I can hold on to my original thought and still listen at times. I know I'm always at risk of losing my line of thought, but hey, it's that or interrupting someone when they're actually excited and being able to speak for once, then by all means, I'm gonna try and let them speak. I may not have the energy to do so, but I'll try.
I hope I didn't interrupt you.
Nah, you're fine. Keep going, you goober.
I don't know how my brain got here, but my campus, one of the teachers is running a study project thing, a lab, whatever, like an actual like big, large scale study thing, right? Where they have a team of students that they've hired. Like literally, I think they're getting paid for this.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, the way ASU handles studies, and I think it's pretty, like basically just concept-wide across universities, where professors can have do actual proper research studies, and students can apply to them and be.
I mean, that's kind of the point of paying people a lot of money, so that way they can get things done. It's not just so you can live a comfy life, it's so that way you can apply yourself and hire people who can help you finish your research and efforts.
That's what I feel like universities should be more the case of, rather than classes.
But
it should be
that's the thing, because the substance is the surface, it gets taken advantage of.
Yeah. But what the study is in self-driving cars, and they've taken the Mustang Mach-E. Ugh. Hate that car. But they've taken it and transformed it into a self-driving car with like a rack on the top full of cameras and stuff, servos on the wheels and pedals to control it all. And every now and again you can see it driving around campus when they're testing it. It's really neat. Super neat. It's just a shame that it's a Mustang Mach-E, but
Well, why do you hate a Mustang Mach-E? I need to hear this, because I have so little information.
Okay, so the Mustang, right? The muscle car?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Hold on, I'm gonna grab pictures to help give a side-by-side of this. Come on, phone, work with me,
I won't be able to
please.
look at the pictures right away, but I'll definitely give a reaction when I can.
Okay. Well, I can also describe it as I say it, anyways. So, I'm just trying to get the photos. Okay. So modern Mustangs, while it's not as gorgeous as, classic Mustang, they still look like a muscle car. I mean, standard blue Mustang, image sent. Standard blue Mustang. However, with the rise of Tesla, Ford is like, alright, we need a electric car. The Mustang is very popular, of course. It's kind of a staple in car history to a degree.
Yeah.
Let's make an electric Mustang. Cool idea. Electric muscle car? Sounds like an amazing concept.
Execution.
However, they
Oh, take your time, hun. Take your time.
Sorry, I sensed the disgusting car. They SUV-ified the Mustang.
No!
The Mustang Mach-E is essentially an SUV, hatchback, whatever piece of junk, but with a Mustang badge on it, and it's an electric car. It's not a Mustang at that point.
Oh, jeez.
It could either be a hatchback, like station wagon, which I kind of see a little bit of it there.
Mm-hmm.
But it have like the Mustang big engine in it, so it's like a hot hatch.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Then keep it being a hot. Then in that case, sure, Mustang, whatever. It's got a Mustang engine in it. Or you make it electric, but it looks like a muscle car.
Oh, I
Then you
just
have the
missed
Mustang
this.
aesthetic with an electric engine. You can't just make an electric SUV and call it a Mustang.
Yeah.
The only Mustang part on it in that case is
The aesthetic, not fucking...
you don't got the body or the engine. You have an SUV with an electric engine with a Mustang badge on it.
That is kinda stupid.
Yeah, and it doesn't even, like, okay, I will say, for an electric SUV, it looks alright. It doesn't look bad. And they even went the kind of neat route that some manufacturers are doing with their EVs, or like at nighttime, you get like a white LED outline of the badge, which looks pretty cool at night.
That's cool, but it's also kinda wasteful.
It is wasteful. I mean, you don't need to do it. It looks neat, and aesthetically is alright. Unneeded, but aesthetically interesting. And I did say when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool looking. But it's still not a Mustang. You can't call that a Mustang. Call it like anything besides. I would be fine with the car existing. I don't hate that it exists. I hate that it's called a Mustang.
So if it wasn't branded with the icon of history of a car made by history.
Yes. Yeah. If it didn't have the branding of the Mustang name and logo and everything, but it was just like the Ford Mach-E. Just call it the Mach-E. Take Mustang away, just the Ford Mach-E. That's alright. Sounds neat. Interesting name. You got kind of the concept of it being a fast electric car, as well as you have the of course you have to have E in it because it's an EV. I mean, all manufacturers are doing that.
Mach-E sells the name well enough on its own. Why the hell did someone decide they wanted to add Mustang on it?
Yeah. And
It feels like an insecurity move.
He's like, oh, it's not gonna sell well enough. I don't know. It looks pretty alright. You're still Ford, so people are gonna buy it because it's a Ford.
Yeah. I swear, people are... there's a reason why I'm trying to figure out mental space concepts and work through all of my own bullshit and as quickly as possible. Because if I can do that, then I've got a more solid foundation and reference point for understanding other people's bullshit and being able to help them work through it and devise a system that, you know, is much more rugged and useful in helping people get through their issues rather than just submit under them and hide them. Because that's the thing. Ultimately, the brain will keep trying to hide and adapt and change things as it needs to in order to adapt to an environment. So even if you, like, get rid of the obvious landmine, you're going to then have invisible landmines. And if you're going to get rid of those, then you're going to have, like, fucking, I don't know, landmines that pop up when you get close to them, that appear into existence, or something else that falls from the sky. It's like all the kinds of crazy mental bullshit.
Yeah. Wait. Wait.
Yes, landmines falling from the sky as you approach them.
Subaru, no.
Oh no, what have they done? I'm not a car person, but I want to listen to this.
So Subaru came out with their new EV as well, called the Solterra, which is a very interesting name.
But that sounds like something you'd find in Terraria.
It kind of does. And how you say it, it kind of does. But also, I'm sending this directly after the Mach-E image, which I sent earlier. Because I'd like you to find the difference between these images.
They look the same, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Terrifyingly the same.
Yeah. Like, they look almost identical. Like, okay, one's more angular than the other one, but like, they look very similar.
Oh, jeez. This is what happens when ideas consume each other within the mental ecosystem of the world. One trend will happen, then another, then another, then another, and it's just like... invasive species upon invasive species until it cycles all the way back around to the original ideas that were half-decent, or at least functional, and then they get redone in weird and new ways, and it's just like, ugh.
Oh, did you know, little fun fact about electric cars. Electric cars have actually been around pretty much since the entire history of the car itself, actually.
That's no surprise. Electricity is kind of used in cars.
Oh yeah. No, like the very first ones, because they were actually rather popular when they first came around, because they were the way they were marketed, because early cars were slow, loud, they'd spew exhaust everywhere, you know, and everything.
Very noisy and
you just smell exhaust constantly. So the first electric cars were actually marketed as being luxury vehicles.
Oh, that's a clever line. That's a clever angle.
Yeah. So because they were quiet, and they also didn't have the stinky smell of exhaust fumes. So I think they were heavily using the let me see if I can find
They were using social cleanliness and presentation standards of the time to help tie in the design features to a certain crowd's appeal, thus ensuring its success.
Yeah. Let's see. The Baker Electric's the aristocrats of motordom, the only complete line of shaft-driven electrics. Let's see. The Baker Electric, with its superior speed and mileage capacity, instant readiness for use, and economy.
I forgot to grab the orange light.
For street and suburban use.
I forgot to do the challenge. Alright. Round 2, Electric Boogaloo. Because I've done goofed, and autopiloted right through 2 missions that I didn't even remember to switch my routing on. Autopiloted right past them.
This is an ad from 1913. I'm trying to make it out, but I can't really make it out too much. But it's marketing this. This smart Victoria makes sightseeing a real pleasure.
Hmm.
And they literally, some of these early ones literally just look like carriages. Straight up just carriages. No engine, nothing, just a driving carriage. But yeah, essentially, you're all rich and you're rich. You don't want to smell filthy exhaust. You don't want to get all the exhaust soot on your.
Unfortunately, that backfired on them in the long term because as the as the different ages of social history swung around and people decided to get a little bit more wild and frivolous.
The marketing campaigns did shift with time. What really
You
did
got
end up
very echoey and distant.
Is it better? I don't know if it's gonna get better.
I don't think it's gonna get better either.
Hang on, I can do that.
What changed? There we go. Yeah, there we go.
So, what really did in electric cars actually was gas prices getting super cheap and actually Ford starting mass production and assembly line manufacturing. Because cars were cheap, gas was actually cheaper than. So owning a gas car would actually end up was actually cheaper than owning an electric car.
Oh, I just thought of a line of like technological progression that would have been fucking awesome if it had happened, if history had happened a little differently. Instead of using gasoline for vehicle engines and whatnot, use it in power plants and then create roads where you've got conductive wiring underneath to charge the fucking vehicle as it moves.
Would be neat. That would be neat. I know that's still a concept that some people are attempting to work on, but it's technology. We're close to being able to
Technology,
transmit
it's a
power.
technology branch that hasn't been decently explored and the funding isn't there for it.
Yeah, the furthest we're down that path is wireless charging for our phones.
Yep.
But yeah.
But no, the reason why I think the wired road route would actually be useful is A, you'd be able to use magnets to help keep cars in lanes and or detect if cars are in their lanes. Second, it would create an interconnected power system throughout an entire city that's fairly easy to access and repair if done right.
Yeah, the only downside I really see to the whole system is rural areas not being able to afford it.
That is a thing, but then it would come down to the usual transit and buses and bike system, which ultimately would still be able to benefit from the network in and of
It definitely
itself.
feels like something that would work in a European setting more than a American setting, simply because of the terrain that America is made up of, and also how spaced out everything is.
That's a fair counterpoint.
That's one of the reasons why electrification of rail lines works so well in Europe, but not so well in America. Ignoring the fact, of course, that we also have a massively underfunded national transportation network.
Well, yeah, because it's the bureaucracy, civility, authority, and that whole fucking tree of conflict.
It would cost so much money to electrify all our rail lines. So much money. Like, I think it would, double the national debt if the government paid out of pocket.
Yep, America is a weird little country where it's in the lead, but it's a fucking underdog in the lead. It has no bets on the future.
We're too large for our own good.
Yeah. Kind of like Russia is, too. But that's due to petty, childish squabbles in the annals of history, and those things are happening all over again in current politics.
The benefit Russia has, though, is most of its population is condensed into, one area of its entire mass. with America, we're kind of spread out all over the place.
Hmm.
So like you have like Russia in the far east has like a handful of rail lines, for instance, if we're just talking about railway, as well as it just has small isolated villages that might not even have, I mean, another village for like 50 miles or so, maybe even more. However, in America, you're like always going to be about like an hour away from another city, and at least like 30 minutes away from civilization as long as you're sticking to roads.
Yeah, especially the major highways.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, in the Midwest, there's lots of farmland, which you can find the farmsteads, housing and stuff. On the coastlines, I mean, you're just gonna find cities everywhere.
Hmm.
Southeast, you're gonna find cities pretty commonly. Southwest will be a little bit more difficult simply because of all the desert. And like Arizona, for instance, would be a little bit more difficult because all our cities are kind of condensed into one area.
Yeah.
So if you're outside that area, you're in out of luck. But it is not a case like with Russia or Australia where like all the cities like large amount of land. I mean, Australia, of course, slightly lesser in this respect, but it's a lot more condensed. I mean, China's a pretty good example of something similar. I mean, China's a little bit smaller, I think. I think they're about half our size. But their people are all sorts of spaced out. Of course, the government has all of the money. At least it claims it has all the money and
The
spends money
government
as it would.
structure of different places are ultimately an entire subsection and rabbit
Oh
hole
yeah.
that will be argued by both historians and present-day people for ages to come.
Oh yeah. For sure. I mean, yeah.
Because some people don't understand what works, some people do understand what works, and some people just fucking want power and control as opposed to security found through freedom and inclusivity. The kind of dynamic variance that would allow some place to survive so many different types of situations rather than just being so uniform and monotone that it fucking dies in anything other than its perfect environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
You do not want the people who want a country to have one unified set of ideals to be the managers of ecosystems, because fucking hell, they would kill an ecosystem, put us in danger.
Yep. Speaking of, do you know of the accident that the Chinese Communist Party made when it was first rebuilding the country after the World War?
No, what about it?
So they were trying to get food in the Great Need for. I think it was the 4-year plan.
You're getting distant again.
Let me know. Does it fix it all or no?
Kinda, I can hear you, so keep going, but if you shift position again and it goes distant, I'll tell you.
Alright. So their goal was basically feed everyone. But to do so, we need to kill the pests. And scientists would basically, they opened up like they detected like a bunch of different animals, one of which was finches. And they found finches were eating crops, seeds of crops. So finches were put on the list of animals to basically kill. So the government would pay farmers like per pound of finches they killed, as well as killing insects and stuff. However, finches primarily, it turns out, eat the bugs that eat the crops.
Oh. Yeah, that's kind of how ecosystems work. There may be something problematic, but fucking it has its place in the ecosystem and keeps other things from getting out of control.
Yeah, they didn't realize that though.
And people don't want to acknowledge social spaces as ecosystems, and it pisses me the fuck off.
The finches nearly went extinct. In like that type of finch,
Yeah.
And the bugs went nuts. And massive famine. Lots of people died.
Yeah.
Because there weren't
Trying to solve a small problem created a bigger one.
Oh yes, did it create a big problem? Oh, it created a big problem.
And I'm sure there's some people thinking it's still a good idea, but let's be real here. That's because you want to use the solution as your excuse and comfort blanket. It's not because you actually want to make sure that other people are going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's really the ultimate frustrating thing is, on one hand, we've got people who genuinely want to do well and have great impacts getting confused and misled by others, and then we've got other people who are willing to confuse and mislead others for their own ends, just to fucking keep their insecurities from bothering them.
Yeah.
And it's like, how are you supposed to get anything done when that's the case? But at the same time, you can't try to force people to work through their issues too much, otherwise they'll then rebel and completely be uncooperative to the point where you're essentially fucking... it's just all annoying.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
And yet, at the same time, all these other people are still very much necessary for the way things work and the way that we know how to keep things working. So you can't just fucking put them in a timeout corner, because then their freedoms are getting restricted. But if you just let them keep having their blind freedoms, then they're going to make decisions that ultimately cause greater harm for people.
Yep.
And yet you can't also do And fascism looks so beautiful because it's like, hey, you can just tell people what they need to hear. And it's just like, no, that doesn't work either, because then you get into rebellion complexes and people fighting back when, regardless of if it's good or bad for them, they just want nothing to do with your shit.
Yep.
And that creates more friction than anything else would, and ultimately creates even further trauma that messes up the world even more. Creating traumaless generations is not possible, so we've got to start working around what ways we can incorporate trauma into our society structure and understanding of how things work, so that way we can build trauma-resistant things that don't require massive tons of bureaucracy.
Honestly, I feel like a split-up United States would solve a lot of issues.
It would create so many more.
Yeah, I know, but equality, I mean, you can split it, the way you split it would be, I mean, I'm thinking radical solutions here, of course, to...
Yeah, and here, I'm trying to think of less radical solutions where it's a measured response instead of a sweeping change.
Because if you follow the European model, which, oh god, trying to get some areas of the country to follow the European model would be impossible. But you got.
Well, yeah, because the European model isn't finding ways to adapt to the culture and fit in, and in doing so, it ultimately alienates itself by trying too hard. It needs to be a natural merging of things, not a forced invasion.
Yeah. Right, because, like, yeah, with the EU, everything is slowly merging together. But I feel like they're still all independent, so all the countries can kind of do their own thing, but they have a set of rules to follow and a council amongst the nations. I feel that's a better model.
It's a better model for some reasons, but not others, because ultimately the council is only good as its people. And let's be real here, people kinda suck.
They do, and I do know they struggle to deal with some stuff, like, they're basically powerless to stop Russia. They just, all the best the EU can really do is just say, no, please stop it. Don't
Yeah,
do that.
they can't send a bitch smack.
Yeah, they can't at all. I mean, but now, like, but at the same time, it also allows the different countries to act relatively independently. I mean, Denmark's politics compared to, like, France's politics are pretty different, at least from what I understand. Especially German politics is very different. Granted, German politics, it looks like, are being massively influenced by us. But we're not
Yeah.
what side is having their rise right now.
Well, it's the difference between a right and a privilege, because a privilege and a right are two different things. Using a privilege means you have no respect for the impacts you create. You're just so used to having it that you're not willing to do without it, or have things change. Meanwhile, a right means you understand the depth and intricacies of certain situations to the point where you can be trusted to handle them and make decent decisions around other people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah. It's... Yeah, I mean, some people say, oh, the unified army won't be as strong. That's not really the case, though. I mean...
The idea of something may not be the reality that we get to live with.
Yeah.
The idea of a concept can be well and good within our heads, but we've got to accept where it fits in with the reality of things instead of trying to force it upon reality.
Yeah, I just like to think of different ways history could have gone.
Yeah, could you... Actually, wait, let me just adjust your Discord volume. Blah blah.
I mean, I could also just try leaving and joining again. I did not want to be up at this point.
Well, unfortunately, we ended up chatting down a tangent.
We did. Besides, I was kind of waiting for my body to cool down anyways, and it's slowly getting there.
Alright.
Like, that's another thing I haven't said for regarding, things is, I've only seen it once, so I'm not gonna be, like, fully expectant of it. Of course, because I've only really heard of one person mentioning it, but higher sensitivity to the cold.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want that because I enjoy the cold, so I want to feel more cold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
August enjoys the cold because they get to then enjoy the warmth. Meanwhile, you enjoy the cold for what it is. That's an interesting difference.
I mean, I can kind of understand that enjoying the warmth part because I like to. I don't know. I like to get all cozy, but my form of cozy is like a nice cold blanket, which then slowly warms up, but not to an uncomfortable degree.
Yeah, and that's a tricky balance to create.
I don't want it to be
a balanced imbalance.
which is very unfortunate given the state I live in. But wow.
Yeah, I do wish you would keep mentions of what state you live in into a minimal, but at this point, it doesn't matter.
I used to be more protective of what state I live in, but then I realized that there's like several thousand, possibly close to 1 million people living in the state.
Fair enough. I'm just worried about how search algorithms and filters can narrow that down regardless of the number size.
I mean, I don't know.
Hey, call me paranoid if you want to. I do overthink a lot.
I don't expect for someone to really desire to put down some random person,
Fair.
like me at least. I don't
Yeah.
really got that thing.
You don't expect to be important within your lifetime beyond the scale of a regular citizen.
To a degree, I mean, I was expecting to possibly join into the military-industrial complex as a line of work at first, but that idea is growing lesser and lesser as I discover more things about myself.
Yeah, so you're ultimately accepting the reality and trying to reorient your plans around what is, rather than trying to force what isn't into reality.
I'm still following my original plan. I'm still gonna follow it till I have a better plan. Which currently I don't have a better plan. I just have the formings and desire to create another plan.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm still fucking practicing my basics and learning to understand reality, because let's be real here, a lot of my mental space originated from the logic is superior bullshit, and being able to fit in is the ultimate goal. Which
I'm still kind of at the logic is superior part personally.
I'm past it. I'm pretty sure both logic and emotion have their issues, mainly because they're so entangled with each other. But that could be my own brain chemistry too, and might not always be the case for other people.
I find logic easier to understand for myself, so I just default to it.
Yeah, is that... do you think... Yeah, there's the brain. Can you please stop auto-completing my sentences inside my head before I get a chance to speak them? Fucking hell. I don't even remember what my line of thought was going towards. Roomba line lost. Roomba angle lost. It has bumped into a wall and been sent to the side. No, sometimes...
Your brain completely stopped for you. You scolded it, so it lost the thought.
Yes, exactly. That's actually how my head works sometimes.
Hi, girl.
Mm. I'm ultimately very frustrated with myself as an existence in person, but I still love myself at the same time, so it's that weird contrasting dynamic.
Huh.
Yeah, you can love yourself and be frustrated with yourself. It's wild, isn't it?
I wonder if I'm part of that.
Would be interesting, but it's hard to tell when so much of your own mind is unknown. Unfortunately, a lot of the avenues for exploring your own mind are either cost a lot of money or cost a lot of time. Because creative outlets can be a way to digest and understand new concepts and help you figure out ideas that you wouldn't have understood before.
I'm not very good at putting my mind, laying my mind out for things.
Well, have you been in a situation where you've been allowed to? Your environment affects you just as much as you affect it. It's not a one-way street. You are both a person, you are not just a person, you are also a concept and variable within any kind of ecosystem you experience, be it a social or physical one. Which means you ultimately can't really run away from the results of your impacts, but if someone tries to force you to confront them before you're ready, then ultimately there would be a mental shutdown. And I hate that I understand so much of this stuff, because I Because even if I understand it emotionally, I'm still teaching it to myself because. So this is what I mean by saying I love of myself. I'm also frustrated with myself.
I see.
Oh.
More huggles.
Mm.
Snuggle.
Knuckle, snuggle. Oh, nice.
Huh?
Brain got confused, thought holding one button did the same thing as holding another button, and it was very silly. Ultimately, it was very, very silly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because I wanted to hold up so that way I would keep flying up, and then I wanted to hold right to, you know, change my angle, but the commands and the inputs got confused and mixed up in my brain, so I ended up holding right instead of just tapping it, which caused me to curve a lot more than I intended to. Ultimately crashing me into a wall. And not generating nearly as much height as I wanted in-game.
Gotcha.
Blah, 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 blah.
I'm starting to get there in terms of tiredness.
Okay. I think I'm gonna need to spend some time with Willow soon. Not tonight, but another night, because it looks like they've had an insecure moment in me not responding to them over Discord. Yeah, it sucks. Because on one hand, Precious Bean, who is awesome and who I've connected with once before and can probably reconnect with a lot more should we be able to spend time together in ways that are, you know, mutually conductive. However, downside, last time that goober was in VR chat, someone basically threw an accusation at her and got her very scared and traumatized damn quick, to the point where she's, even if she doesn't remember it because of her coping mechanism, at least not at first, she's still has difficulty jumping into VR chat, which is ultimately my main social space and a connection point, which is frustrating because I can only give my attention to so many people, but at the same time I also want to maintain my connections because of my greediness, and it's finding the line between that I struggle with. Because if I push myself too far, I shut down. But if I don't do enough, then people drift away. Even while I still care about them. And I kind of just have to let it happen when it happens, otherwise I'm not really helping anyone. I swear, I would be so much more powerful if ADHD and autism weren't limiting me. But then I also wouldn't be the same person with the same understanding, so I wouldn't be able to direct myself or have the same base of knowledge to begin with. If there's a version of me out there that doesn't have autism or ADHD, I'm gonna want to help them. You went pretty quiet.
Yeah.
You're finally passing out on energy levels.
Yeah, energy levels are lowering slowly. I don't really got much to talk about.
It's conversation entered a territory that you're not familiar with.
Well, I also don't really have anything to respond with.
Yeah, that too.
That isn't simply just okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the mood where it's like, hey, I don't want to just respond with those, but at the same time, how the fuck do I show active listening?
Yeah, exactly.
Because if I could start using my definitions in words, then there's bound to be a miscommunication, and we'll spend time on that instead of me actually being able to listen to you. But then if we prioritize listening over understanding, then ultimately the information conveyed will not be complete. It's one of those interesting nuances, socially and dynamically. It's nice to open up like this, though. I've got to figure out how to do it more with regular people without expecting it of them, because I'm gonna be real. Everyone's living their own life, and where I may be at conversationally and understanding-wise may not be someone's comfortable safe home or space. So ultimately, even if I can get along with them in a casual sense, I may not be able to get along with them on a deeper level. But at the same time, I still want to, and it's that little paradox that I'm still chewing on, ultimately. I'm sure there's some jargon and words to explain what I'm talking about, but I don't want to use jargon and fancy words because they isolate. They keep me from being able to stay connected to the ground level reality. They create their own little social community and disconnect me from the common problems of people. It's weird. I both want to interact with others and have my own social home, but when people request to spend time with me and my ability to self-manage my time and space fails, I shut down and withdraw. Fucking ass. Oh. And that's the thing, people are getting tricked by the surfaces of things where its substance is different. And they take the surface as getting what they want, when really, it's the substance that would get them what they want. Which is a confusing psychological concept, because that means you can't take everything as it's presented. And yet, we've also still got to keep in mind what is presented, otherwise we're going to lose touch with reality. You can't just isolate things until they go your way. You have to keep in mind the connections, or you're going to fail the different ability checks and the context context cues that ultimately will help you get what you want. What doesn't help is people who have money and are exploiting the worth of people's efforts and how money is as a way to try and quantify that. They're exploiting it to then fucking make themselves feel better, but it ultimately doesn't solve their core issue or help them resolve it in a way where they can connect with others without having to hide their insecurity wound. So it's fucking confusing, because you can't just fucking dismiss them, but at the same time, if you enable them too much, then they're just going to become a fucking problem. Whatever. Ain't my job to fix reality. Just have to live. Just have to fucking live. Oi! Stop that! You ain't getting the fuck over here. When I say I'm asleep most of the time, this is what I mean, by the way. Where I'm psychologically not actually being active, because my activity would overwhelm someone else's activity, and I don't want to shut other people down. Because I don't know how to be active and not shut other people down, and it fucking sucks. It fucking sucks. This keeps me isolated. Trapped in my own issues and otherwise. Fucking hate it. Authenticity is a skill I'm going to have to develop throughout my entire fucking life, because my anxious brain, due to being scared of reality, keeps trying to shut me down, even though it understands reality to a decent extent. Oh, I'll take that. What the fuck? I am right here. Please stop that. And I heard somewhere in my mind, oh yeah, someone else would call you emotionally constipated, and it's like, I wonder why. Are you fucking kidding me? Fuck you, video game. Fuck you. Please get the red one and the yellow one. Oh. I just want the yellow, white, and blue. I don't care about the red. But of course you're gonna release the red. Oh well, I'll take it. Oh, whatever. Maybe I just need to stop shutting myself down, but no, when I get carried away on my own pace and my ego takes control, that's when people can get hurt, so I can't just fucking let go of that skill. I can definitely stop using the negative versions of it as I learn better ones, but it's fucking... habits and their issues, I swear to heck. Easily frustrated, hard to truly anger. Sometimes my own frustrations are... And part of the time, the frustrations I deal with are of my own creation because I just don't speak up. Yellow. Ultimately, what limits me is my own perceptions and my lack of resources. Because of my own perceptions. Just like how it limits everyone else. Why would I willingly shut myself down? To try and be able to connect with people and help them sort through their problems. It's the far more dangerous method, the wild one, but it is one I have available to me. And yet it's the very people who break the system who would be best suited to actually defend it from intruders. But no, because of their issues, and because of biases other people have, they don't get that chance. And they aren't trained properly well enough to where they can control their own issues, instead of letting their issues control them, and it's... There's a collective shame spread across this country that is shutting people down and keeping them from acknowledging their own faults, because that shame is directed at their sense of self and not at their actions. Which is ultimately a travesty. Give me the yellow. Give me the impulse. I just stand here ominously powering the door. I fucking love doing that. I need to find a way to connect with people down below without having to shut myself down or re-enter old wounds. But at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that I won't still need those methods in extreme situations. I shouldn't only have those methods available, but sometimes they are needed. That would be quite the achievement, being able to see inside a black hole and extract information of it. Such as to be able to either see the universe that lies inside, or rather the absurdity that lies inside, thus giving birth to new people and concepts and things that otherwise wouldn't be available from traditional materials. But that's a piece of fiction and speculation. That's not the known reality. And we can only extrapolate real information from the known reality, Because the further you get from the known reality, the more you enter possibility and fiction space, where you need a solid reference points in order to make sure your conclusions don't go sideways or unstable. Because fiction space can overlap with reality. It's called absurdity. It's what we strive for, in both good and bad. And of course, the isolationists and the selfish desires of people in and of themselves, in wanting simple lives, will ultimately want to control their environment. At the same time, it's... you have to trust the people, but you can't blindly trust them. You have to know what you're working with. Fucking... I'm not able to interact like this all the time, because it requires a high energy cost. The downside of me adapting to others is that in choosing to make my midway state my normal state, I kinda have trouble accessing the true depths of myself at times. Pursue absurdity without ignoring the value of life and reality. No matter how twisted, bitter, or confusing it may be. Recognize real people, not just fake ones. Yep, there we go. Okay. Oh. If I had been in a mental space to do so when I was younger, I most definitely would have taken the opportunity to practice leadership and otherwise when I was back in Boy Scouts. But as it stands, I wasn't in that space, and so bleh. To those of you who snuck by and watched part of this recording, thank you! To those of you who stuck around and watched near the end, I appreciate it. Man. I hope you have a good day, good night, whatever time it is. And if it isn't good, I hope it improves, or at least stays manageable. My name is Flicker, I've got my dailies done, so I'll be seeing you all next time. Bye! Well, this is awkward. Mm.